listed there, Carol Larson, who has assisted us with data analysis, and Dave Richard, who is our senior software developer, who's done a terrific job of working on the unit records the last several years. So today's program should last about an hour and a half at most, a little shorter. Those of you who have been through one of these in previous years, there's not too much new, but we're glad to have you on the webinar just to be able to stay fresh with this information. The purpose of the unit record report is to provide institutional reports and profiles, to be a kind of a global assessing of needs of students throughout the state. We provide information that guides legislative and other policy decision makers. This is the work of Rochelle Sharp, who is our Deputy Director now, and Becky Thompson, who is the Director of Student Financial Aid. We will be taking information to help inform state programs, and all of this information we hope very much will minimize the need for ad hoc data institutions. From a schedule point of view, the manual is available electronically, and I suspect many of you have gone there and have reviewed that. On Monday, August 17th, we will have the actual application open. You can begin that day to complete your 14-15 unit record report. You have until October 9th to finalize the report. Certainly recommend you work on that well before that date to work through edits and of that nature. October and November, we will be doing analysis here at the Council, and we'll provide a report to policymakers. And by January, we'll have the institutional profile reports for you that compare your school to other schools in your sector and to all schools in the state. The manual is comprised of a number of chapters and appendices. The overview, purpose, changes, etc. will begin with general instructions, so forth. Our appendices are probably one of the most important things for those of you who work with the unit record report to be able to be very familiar with that, because they have lots of information on which students to include, which should be section A. B would be the record layout, file format, valid inputs. And the way we've constructed that, there's a lot of interplay that you can have between, if you're in a particular section and you wanted to, for example, find out about class standing, you can click on there and it'll take you to the manual, give you the definition for class standing. System edits that prevent file upload, and then some lookup up charts that if you were trying to figure out a particular financial aid program, how does that fit within the whole scheme of things, you could look that up in D and E. One of the first things that schools must do for this each year is to build their CSV file for submission. If you were successful in using your CSV file last year, as I suspect everybody was, you could use the same file format and the same CSV file just by putting in new data. There's really been no changes to the file format structure. We do, though, have a copy of this on the website that you can download if you want to start fresh on that. You're going to be reporting only students who receive financial aid based upon the 14-15 FAFSA year, and your CSV form has a header row. It has to be very specific for our program to read that. You will review the field definitions in Chapter 2 and the appendices to determine the valid field content. So how do you determine which students to report? Well, everybody that was a need-based recipient where you required a 14-15 FAFSA is probably the starting point, that all of those students who were enrolled and received aid must be reported. And there are a number of other need-based programs. It may be softer need-based, but programs where FAFSA data may or may not be available. I can think of, for example, the Opportunity Scholarship Program that you probably have FAFSA data on it, and that was considered a need-based program when it started out. But for renewal, you may not need a FAFSA, but we still want that reported. And then all non-need-based federal loan recipients need to be reported. And that includes federal direct and unsubsidized loans, federal plus loans, federal grad plus loans. So for our need-based recipients, the intent is to capture everybody in the state for all the financial aid disbursements through this unit record report. The report this year, as I mentioned, was based upon filling out the 1415 FAFSA, or in some cases it could be the WASFA form if you had an undocumented student who was eligible for a program like the state need grant. I'll cover that more as we go on. You're going to report on next year's unit record report any financial aid that was received based upon the 15-16 FAFSA. That's really the distinguishing mark between the 2 years. So need-based recipients where FAFSA is required, these are kind of the hardcore need programs, things like the federal Pell Grant, College Bound Scholarship, State Need Grant, Perkins Loan, any of those that you require a FAFSA, you're going to be providing quite a bit of information on the FAFSA fields. There are other programs that we consider need-based programs that, again, you may or may not have a FAFSA, but these are examples of here would be like the Opportunity Scholarship, the Federal Teach Grant, Get Ready for Math and Science, things of that nature. By the way, this webinar will be available on our website. If you wish to see another version of this, either look at this in a PowerPoint one, and we'll have the verbal one as well on that. So there's the basic food, employment, and training program. If your need-based recipients receive these funds and they're easily retrievable, portable from your system, please include the amounts for the same period of time that you reported other recipients. In this case, it should be reported as workforce training funds. There may be some uncertainty about that. This is more likely to be at the community technical college sector, but maybe a few other schools that have these funds as well. Programs to report, mention the non-need-based loan recipients. This is necessary for us to get a full picture to be able to show legislators and other policymakers. And the information reported will be minimal for the federal loan recipients who are not also receiving other need-based assistance. Changes for the 14-15 year, we have a section in the manual, Roman numeral small 3, that talk about consistency with other WASEC reporting. The SNG, CBS, and passport funds reported will be compared with the final interim report and other portal records by recipient. Those should be very tight as far as the same figures for both the unit record and the final interim report. We do allow individual differences of less than $10 will not generate an edit. If it's greater than $10, it will generate an edit that you need to fix or override. And you may use WASFA data in absence of FAFSA data if a student was a dreamer. These are those who, undocumented students primarily, who might have received the state need grant program. So wherever it mentions FAFSA, you may use the WASFA data if you don't have the FAFSA and they receive some kind of need-based assistance. The Social Security number, there are a few items here to cover. It's really important that the number match whatever data you have submitted for the your final interim report. If there is a difference there, it causes problems, and you need to resolve those. If it was missing from the unit record but reported in the interim report, it will appear as a difference, and a discrepancy report must be fixed up. So for us, the order of preference, if you have a true Social Security number, hopefully that is the one you use for interim report and this report. You may have some students who don't have a final Social Security number but have a 9-digit tax identification number. These are more likely the undocumented students. That would be the second order of preference. And the third order would be a WASFA student who simply has an identification number assigned by WASFA. So if you have are populating a Social Security field with a 9-digit number used in the institutional reporting, so in that particular case, you might have I suppose you could have an institutional ID number that you're using that if you did not have a true Social Security number, that will get by as long as there's not a conflicting number in the interim report. You're in school, clarification that there's a code 8 or other. It's used to report need-based aid for Running Start students or other students who might not yet have graduated from high school. So there were some questions last year. Do you report them as, say, a freshman student? No, report them as a code 8 if you are reporting any aid for Running Start students or other students in high school. And we've made a few changes in the valid input ranges. These are ones, it shows you the old values in the center and the new values to the right. Family income, for example, negative 300,000 to a positive 600,000, and other numbers. One note on the Pell Grant program is it shows a 0 to 5730, which is correct. If you printed or looked at your manual prior to a few weeks ago, it might have shown a $5,700 figure. We have corrected that, so things should get through fine in the edit reports when you actually put awards up to 5730. These numbers are big on a number of the aid programs, like the loan programs, and this helps accommodate a few schools that have borrower-based years, and sometimes they end up reporting 2 borrower-based years in 1 year on the unit record report. So for family income, we really want schools to report the actual family income amounts, even if higher or lower than the system edit amounts. That allows for us to give truer average incomes than if you restrict your figure. Some schools in the past, I think, wanted to get by edits and restricted their maximum figure to our maximum figure. But please put the true figure in and do an edit override if need be. And if you were doing an edit override, you could put something like the actual income report in the FAFSA or WASFA. So the edits are really there to help make sure every once in a while somebody adds a couple digits and a couple zeros, and we wouldn't want to have really big income figures that got through that were not checked by you. For need amounts, please adjust any negative need amounts to 0. So from a true need calculation, your system may show a negative need amount, but we would prefer you to update those to 0, and should you not do that, we will automatically adjust that figure internally, any negatives in need to 0. So for family income is really the only one that we truly want the option to report something as a negative figure. And this is kind of an early announcement for a change that is likely to be handled in the 15-16 unit record report, dealing with tuition waiver dollars for state need grant and CBS recipients. We would like schools to report fuller partial tuition waivers as financial aid, and to keep the cost of attendance at the level that would include the tuition prior to the application of waivers. Reporting waivers as financial aid and need-based aid or non-need-based aid. So this is not absolutely required in 15-16. Some schools were not able to easily accommodate that. But institutions are encouraged to report it this way in 14-15 if at all possible. So let's, I guess we should take a look and to see if there are any comments that have come through. Anybody wishes to chat on this or verbal comments? Hearing none, we'll keep moving along here. For the reporting requirements, these are fields that are required for everybody that you have a unit record for. SSN, first and last name, gender, state residency, year in school, and financial aid per term, even if it's zero. And this, if there's anybody new at this, when you see the CSV file, it's a very long file because it has all of the aid.
I was able to print this. It's 30 pages long. Do you want a copy too, or should
no, as long as I think we have one copy. I think
somebody could get their phone or paper back there.
Not really. I mean,
okay.
And I take notes, but it's pretty much.
We have some background conversation taking place. Would that person please mute their phone? Thank you.
So, as I mentioned to any new persons, it's a very long file, but everything has to be populated with zeros if there was no aid. So a particular student does not have a nursing scholarship, for example, maybe you don't even have that program at your school, you still have to populate that with zeros in the aid per term. And the enrollment status must be reported per term as well. So you're going to be reporting financial aid for each of 5 terms, summer 1, fall, winter, spring, and summer 2. You report the enrollment status for each of 5 terms, and you'll be reporting non-need-based aid received for all need-based recipients. So that, the distinction there is that if you have somebody with only non-need-based aid, let's say they have scholarship aid, that should not be reported to us in the unit record. But if you have scholarship aid that goes to a needy student, that has to be reported as part of that student's need-based aid package. So I mentioned the CSV file requires a header roll. The sample is available on the website. Summer 1 is used primarily for leader or header award schools. Fall, everyone will use. Winter, if you're a semester school, that will typically be reported all as zeros. Spring could be either spring quarter or spring semester. And then summer 2 is used primarily for schools that count that as a trailer award. When to include summer aid in your reporting. Review Chapter 2 of the manual for a detailed discussion of this, but basically for this year, anything based upon the 14-15 FAFSA or WASFA should be reported on this year's FAFSA. This year's unit record. So in general, the leader or header schools will have reporting summer 1 aid, but you are reporting summer 2 probably as all zeros. If you're a trailer school, you'll be reporting summer 2 aid, so that would be, for the summer of 2015, that would have been based upon the 14-15 FAFSA. The summer 1 would be reported as zeros. If a recipient is enrolled for more than one term in the same summer, report the total amount received and the enrollment status as one enrollment term. Now, I know from my past experience at University of Puget Sound, I know we have someone on the call from UPS, but we had multiple summer terms, and all those would have to be added into one summer term for the unit record report, so that you're just reporting one summer term. And I want to go back again. If you're a clock hour school, there is advice to be able to how to report that in terms of those 5 summer periods as well. That's covered well in the manual. Fields to also report for the 14, 15 FAFSA and WASFA filers. There's these number of fields: marital status, dependency, family size, number in college, family income, expected family contribution, cost of attendance, need duration, and need amount. Those are all required fields. So a few special notes about selected fields may be helpful to you. For Social Security numbers, you may not use any duplicate numbers in that field. If you show any duplicate numbers, the file will not upload, and you'll get a message on that. SSNs of state need grant, college-bound scholarship recipients will be compared to the SSNs reported in your final interim report. And SSNs of passport to college recipients will be compared to the portal records we have. Any discrepancies will show up on edit reports, and you'll need to clear those up in one way or another. Year in school, there are 8 choices, and you are required to report one of these for all recipients. We want you to report the status as of the beginning of the term of the recipient's last financially disbursement for the 14-15 year. So, a student might have started the year as a freshman, but by their spring disbursement, if that was the final disbursement, there would be a sophomore at your university. You report them as a sophomore status. Similarly, somebody might have started out as an undergraduate student in the fall, and by the spring or summer that you're reporting they're a graduate or professional, you need to report them as a graduate professional student. Do not automatically use the year-end school report on the FAFSA or WASFA, and that's that same type of thing where it says, what will you be during the next year, and students will likely put, I'll be a freshman or a sophomore, but they may advance before the end of the school year. So report the highest year in school, and mentioned earlier, Code 8 or other is used to report need-based aid for Running Start students and other students who have not graduated from high school. Family size, this will generally be reported right from the FAFSA or WASFA. Must be 2 or higher for dependent students. It must be 1 or higher for independent students. Number in college must be 1 or higher. Cannot exceed the family size, of course. And the parents' enrollment in college should not be included unless it was professional judgment. That's the same way the FAFSA does it. And professional judgment, though, could override any one of the fields that we have here. If you have documentation on different family size, different income, etc., your professional judgment would overrule the data that was on the FAFSA originally. So for family income, report the family income based upon the review of the 14-15 FAFSA or WASFA. This will often, usually, be from a 2013 income from the FAFSA or WASFA. Mention that if a professional judgment decision was made, please report that income. And you're going to be reporting whole integers without dollar signs or cents. So here are examples of how to report a positive number or a negative number. And as mentioned, this is the only place in the file where negative numbers should be reported. For expected family contribution, This will often be that figure reported by the federal methodology calculation as produced by the U.S. Department of Education based on the FAFSA or WASFA, but of course may be adjusted by your professional judgment decision. It should, though, reflect the number of months reported and the need duration. So there are a number of items, including the cost of attendance, that should reflect the need duration. So in essence, we want, when you report figures like cost of attendance, need, and expected family contribution, they should all be based upon the need duration. So report the student budget amount related to the need amount as well. So it doesn't mean that you have to adjust everything if, for example, let's say a student started out the year with a 9-month cost of attendance and a 9-month need and 9-month budget duration. You might report that same grouping to us even though the student might have dropped out before the 9 months was up and they might have only reported A for the fall term, for example. That's okay if the need and those other items are all based upon 9 months. However, if you adjust any of them, let's say you're at a school that wanted to adjust and say that student is only there 4 months, we're adjusting the need to 4 months, adjust everything to 4 months so that it's a consistent figure there for our analysis. So this is everybody's favorite equation. I'm sure you can recite that in your sleep here. Cost of attendance minus EFC equals need amount. Base all 3 items on the number of months and need duration. For need amounts, report the amount used in the disbursement of aid. And report need amount as 0 or higher. Please don't report negative values. Mentioned before, if you do, we're going to reduce those to 0 in this particular equation there. Need duration, I think covered that pretty well, but that will be reported in whole integers from 1 to 12. Term enrollment status. So if you're a credit hour school, the second column to the left, it will show how we're asking you to report full-time, half-time, three-quarter time, etc. It's the same way that it's being done in the interim report as far as the same codes over to the right. If you're a clock hour school, this shows the number of clock hours that will equate to full-time, half-time, three-quarter time. If you have some other system, such as probably University of Puget Sound, a unit system, or Evergreen State College, I'm sure you have worked out a conversion part that converts things into credits. So for clock hour schools, here are the approximate dates to use for reporting your aid. And so clock hour schools are one that will oftentimes report both summer 1 and summer 2, whereas other schools, non-clock hour schools, would typically only report summer aid as either summer 1 or summer 2. So we appreciate the good work that clock hour schools do to make this conversion to be able to show the aid broken over this 5 periods of time. So in looking at a couple programs, state need grant, please report the final awards received by the student. The unit record reporting tool will check against the final interim report. Please review state need grant students not reported to verify recipients and awards are correctly reported. So we do find every year some schools that will report students on the interim report but not on the unit record, or will report them on the unit record, not on the interim report. Those, of course, have to be reconciled before we can complete the unit record report. Sometimes those are Social Security number mix-ups, so that's critical to watch for that. If it turns out that and we hope that the number reported on the interim report was a correct Social Security number, then you need to fix the unit record to match that. Once in a while, we find at the time the unit record is completed that the school has learned that the interim report SSN was incorrect. In that case, you're going to have to work with our staff. There'll be some information at hand. We'll show you how you can do that so that we can fix the Social Security number in the interim report to be consistent with the real number. A college-bound scholarship, basically the same advice here on being real careful that the SSNs are correct and everything is reported properly. For state work-study program, we do ask you to separate the on-campus and off-campus employment. You're going to be reporting gross earnings, including the employer match or institutional share. We do want you to include summer employment. And the bottom section here shows for reporting, you can really do this one of two ways. That your actual gross earnings based upon monthly cutoff dates or institutional payroll dates. Or you can do average gross term earnings over the academic year for all terms the student was enrolled at least half time. There were a couple of schools asked us if they could do it that way last year. Their system couldn't accommodate the first way, so that either way is fine. So, important thing is you're showing the gross earnings and then breaking that up accordingly in some reasonable way to show how that will be reflected throughout the year. Institutional gift aid, you'll be reporting institutional gift aid one of two ways, either as need-based institutional gift aid. This was certainly any institutional grants, scholarships, waivers awarded either solely or partially on the review of the FAFSA. And non-need-based aid would be institutional aid awarded without regard to the FAFSA. So certainly lots of scholarship programs have reported non-need-based aid. We did see a few schools last year that were reporting what we would have considered non-need-based gift aid as need-based gift aid. There was no FAFSA, there was no need. And we can handle that, but we prefer that you report those as a non-need-based institution gift aid if there was no FAFSA that was part of the review of that. Other state-funded gift assistance, here are some examples that if there was no other bucket to report these in, you're going to be putting them in this one called Other State-Funded Gift Assistance. So examples would be the American Indian Endowed Scholarship Program that Ann Bowles is our administrator here. Gear Up Assistance could be reported there. Washington Scholars, the Washington Award for Vocational Excellence. And both the Washington Scholars and the WAVE program, there's just a couple more years worth of students left before they will all kind of graduate out, as no new funds have been added to those programs. There are a series of edits. Edits help ensure data quality. They are softened a bit for students who are receiving only non-need-based federal loans. The FAFSA-related edits are also softened for students not receiving any type of FAFSA-required aid fields. Edits that prevent the file upload. They're covered in Appendix C, page 39 of the manual. Here are examples: missing header row, duplicate SSNs, invalid codes, blanks reported in required fields. So there are 12 particular items that would prevent the file upload. Good news, again, is that if your school successfully submitted the unit record last year, there are not many changes this year. That should go quite smoothly for most schools this year. There are non-overridable edit examples that will appear on pages 40 to 41 of the manual. So, for example, you might report a student but have absolutely no financial aid reported. That one, you either have to report some aid or delete the record. We do not want aid records of students that did not receive any financial aid. A non-resident with SNG or other state aid. This happens a few times, and a couple times colleges have had to pay money back when kind of at the 11th hour when you were completing your unit record, somebody says, oops, this student was from Montana and they got a state need grant. Should that be the case, that would have to be fixed and the state need grant repaid. More likely, the Montana resident was inappropriately coded and there should have been a Washington resident. So this gives you a chance to either fix to Washington residency for these aid programs or resolve this with our program administrators to make sure that only Washington residents are getting this aid. Number of college cannot exceed the family size. Example. Need-based amount is 0 with need-based aid. These are overridable edit examples. This could happen, and it could be the response you give is that the budget changed due to drop credits. Year in school for aid type. There may be something that would show up. A student received a Pell Grant, but they're listed as a graduate student. In this case, the student graduated mid-year. Date of birth outside of the normal range. Our range goes from approximately ages 15 to 80. Does not mean that an 81-year-old could not receive financial aid, of course. It just gives you the opportunity to make sure that you've got that right, got the right century, got the right numbers in there. Cost of attendance minus EFC does not equal the need amount reported by the college. So we do the math on this, and we'd like this to be, make sure that this is tight, that these things are calculated properly. A few tips and best practices. Upload your CSV file early. Don't wait for the deadline. There is a portal training section that you could go in today, tomorrow, whenever you want. And this, we've had a couple schools use this, and in fact, the one school that used it helped us find that we were wrong in our Pell Grant amount, and we got that fixed. So if you go in there, you can upload your file. The data is entered temporarily. The information clears overnight. So it could be a non-threatening way to be able to check this out, particularly if you're a new administrator at this. You may want to try that. Use the unit record report information reports, check for consistency and validity, and we'll show you some of this in a walkthrough of some of the screen views in just a minute. Any community and technical colleges, there will also be a separate SBCTC unit record report manual that should be out in a couple weeks, and they'll all be notified when that is available. Of course, you may contact us with questions or problems not addressed in the manual. We'd be very pleased to work with you on that and help you out. So I'm going to, we'll stop for a moment, see if there are any questions before we have Ann spend a few minutes looking at some screenshots. So Ann, let's see if there's any questions that have come up. No questions are showing up. Are we unmuted now?
You are unmuted.
Unmuted. So if you have any verbal questions, hearing none, let's go on to the web application.
Thank you, Steve. All right. I would like to introduce you to our homepage. I think most of you are familiar with this. There may be a few new portal users. And in that event, I have listed here the portal web address. There is a way to get to this directly from our WASAC website through the administration tab. Underneath that menu, there is a unit record option that you would click, and there is a direct link from that site. However, if you save this as a favorite, you should be able to get to that pretty rapidly. You would include your email address here in this little box, and then your password. Click Login to get in. For those of you who are new to the portal, I believe that your institutional administrator will be able to provide you with that access. So if you have any issues or questions about that, you can give us a call. Once you have logged into the portal, you should have a menu along the top edge. If you click Programs, you should find a unit record there. If you are new to the portal, you may not see that, and that is something that your institutional administrator can add for you. Once you have clicked Unit Record, you will see our welcome sign, and the first thing you would do is proceed to upload. If you have already started working in your unit record and you are returning to the site, you will find that you don't see this welcome screen. You will find yourself at Ready to Begin, In Progress, or at the Submitted stage. Just past the welcome screen, you will see this little pop-up. What you would do next is browse your PC, locate a CSV file that has your unit records in it, and then click the Upload button. As you're waiting for that to upload, you will see this progress bar showing along the top edge. It will move along. It also will tell you approximately how many records you still have before it is completely uploaded. If you have any errors in your upload file, you will see next a pop-up screen that tells you that. There will be a row number to indicate which row your error is in, what type of error that is. These are critical errors that will not allow your file to upload. In that event, you will click this discard file, go back to your record, and make your corrections. I would suggest that perhaps you print the screen so you know what those errors are. After you've successfully uploaded your CSV file, you will see a little summary report like this. It will tell you how many students you have reported and the class counts. Just take a quick look at this to see whether that looks right. If everything appears to be fine, then you would click the Proceed to Edits button here. If you find that there are any particular major errors, you have a discard upload button, and you would go back through to correct your file and then attempt another upload. Once you've clicked the upload file, there is another progress bar. At this time, the portal is processing your edits. As it gets to creating that upload file, that record of edits, It will pop up down here. It will take a little bit of time. You can click the refresh key because as it's processing those edits, it will continue to add those errors to that file. This refresh key will bring up all of the edits as they're being processed. It disappears once the edits have all been included in this file. Once you have your entire edit list, you can filter it. Here is the box where you can make those options. Each of these headers here that are circled are the edit filters. So when you click this drop-down box, you will see a list of these, and then you can change your file to show what you want in the priority you wish to address them. Before I go on, I want to move back here. I forgot to mention, in this overridable column, you will see most of these are going to tell you whether they are overridable edits or whether they are critical edits that need to be addressed. If you see this little stop sign, the little red stop sign, that is an error that you cannot enter an override response. That particular issue does need to be resolved before you can actually submit your unit record. And I'll go over that in a little bit. As I mentioned before, if it's a non-overridable edit, you will not be able to proceed with a full submission of your report until those are addressed. In order to edit each of these records, you would click on the Social Security number that you see on that edit list. That will open up the student record. At the top of that, you will see what the error is. If it's an overridable error, you will have a button here that you can press and enter the valid reason why there is a difference. If it is something that you believe is a correct entry. If it is not correct and you need to make a correction, there are two tabs here on this record. One is the student demographics and need. The other is the actual student aid tab. So if you don't see the area that you need to address on this page, then you would click this other tab. In this particular instance, the error is, or the overridable edit is the student is not enrolled. That is an edit that would take place on this student aid tab. You would click whatever the appropriate term is, click the drop-down, select the appropriate enrollment category. If there is all zeros in the column for the aid type, you can correct or change that amount. If you've chosen instead not to correct but to enter an override reason, when you click on that override button, it will open this little pop-up box. Once you have made your comment, you make sure that you click Save in order for it to retain the information. You can check to be sure that the information that you entered is correct by clicking this little blue circled eye icon. It should pop up your information so that you can verify. As Steve mentioned earlier, you do need to make sure that you report all aid by term. The column headings are shown here. At the bottom are the different program areas that you will find down that column. If there is no aid in any particular program, you need to be sure that you indicate a 0. If it's left blank, you will get an error message. Once you have addressed all of your overridable errors, you can check this state need grant, college-bound, passport to college discrepancies report. You will find that not all edits and errors are covered in this particular edit report. So we recommend that you click on that. It will bring up any edits that have already been addressed through the override process, or those where you might have missing records. And when I say missing records, you see here, this shows what our portal would indicate for this student. There is nothing indicated, which means that our portal records at this time show no payment. On the other hand, you would have reported a unit record amount. Here, there is a difference. In this particular instance, we have added an override requested column. If this is an edit that you have already addressed through that edit process, you will see a Y there. Otherwise, it will be blank. Blanks mean that those errors need to still be addressed in some fashion. But it is a way for you to identify quickly which ones you may have already addressed through that override process. If you have several problems in the file here, you can download to a CSV file that you can work from in order to make those corrections to your unit record. I just mentioned here. This is where you would download the CSV file. If you have an existing record in your upload, however, you find that there is a correction that needs to be made, you can always go to your top menu bar, click the search button, and it will bring up a file where you can indicate name or social security number. Click the search button and it will bring up that student record. If you have a missing record, that can be added to your unit record. From the edits page, we have this little button that just indicates add a unit record to the report. If you click that, it will bring up this student record blank. Make sure that you completely fill it out, both the Student Demographics tab and the Student Aid tab, and make sure that you click Save in order for the file to be retained. After you've corrected or fixed all errors and edits, from the edit page, you will see this Click to Continue button. Click that button, which will take you to another version of the discrepancy report. I would make one final check of each of these tabs to be sure that there aren't any other errors that might need to be addressed. One of the things I want to mention is that if you have a mismatched Social Security number, you see that you have reported a student in the unit record under one Social Security number, but our interim report or passport portal records have a different Social Security number. That is not an error that can be fixed from your side of the portal. You do need to notify us. There is a new button here that says send an email. That will shoot to the unit record team a secure email where you can describe the student and the Social Security issue. Once we receive that, we will make sure that it gets to the appropriate program person, or we will contact our IT staff to make the correction directly. Once you are sure that all of the information is correct, you would then click to continue, or if you feel that there are additional edits, you can return to the edit list. At this point, before you have submitted your unit record, you can take a look at your program totals reports. These are a comparison of the previous 3 years with the current year's data. Click to continue if everything looks correct. If you find that there may be some additional errors or omissions, unusual patterns, you may want to click Return to the Edit List and address those corrections. If you click to continue, you will come to this preliminary page. It will give you another opportunity to look at all the different types of summary reports based on the data that you have already entered into the file upload. If everything appears correct, then you will click submit your unit record report. You will receive a pop-up that asks you whether you are sure you want to submit at this time. Once you have submitted your unit record report, you cannot re-enter to make additional changes or corrections. It does require that you contact WASAC unit record team in order to revert your file or reopen it in order to make additional corrections. So we want to be sure that we've given you every opportunity to be sure that the information that you have in your file upload is accurate and up to date before you submit. So once you have submitted, you will receive a confirmation page. There's also a copy of your summary reports. This gives you the opportunity to download a copy for your records of the final upload. After you've completed this, you can print this page as well and then log out. Just a quick reminder that once you have logged out of the portal, you can return at any time and find these summary reports. Go up to your main menu, click on Unit Record, click on Reports, and at that time you can then download. Another reminder that there will be additional comparison reports available to you in January. Once those are ready for you to review, we will contact you to let you know that. Are there any questions at this point about any of the material that I've covered? Okay. Steve?
Okay, well, thank you, Ann, very much for the good walkthrough on that. We are very appreciative of the good work that you do at your institutions and the hard work you have to get this data into us. It's worth it, though, for the state. It's a lot of information. I would strongly recommend you use that portal training device to be able to kind of play in the sandbox before you submit the actual one. But it's a good help. Those of us, if you need any additional help, you can use the unit record email right in the center there. That's probably the best one. That one of us will jump on that to get it. You can also call Ann or call me. Our numbers are on the right and left there. So thank you so much for all of this. This may not be the most exciting report you do, but it's a very valuable one, so we appreciate it. Goodbye now.
Thank you.
Thanks.